that last climb, it's Cat 1, but as you just said, Spencer, it's 5-6% maximum. There's nobody dropping Wout van Aert on those slopes. Rather the contrary, I think. He would probably drop.
Yeah.
And he can stay with, and he can stay with these guys, and who's going to beat him in the sprint? He can, he's great in the downhill. So at plus 350, Wout van Aert is my favorite to win the stage tomorrow.
Hi, I'm Spencer Martin, along with Johan Bruyneel, and this is Outcomes.
Outcomes is not an online gambling operator or a gambling site of any kind. We are simply here to provide information about sports betting for entertainment purposes only. It is a responsibility of all visitors to this podcast to check current local laws in their area or country before doing any gambling online. It is your responsibility to know and follow your local laws in place. Although we try best to provide accurate information on Outcomes, we cannot be held responsible for any inaccurate or incorrect information which is mentioned on the show. If you place any bets based on the conversations on Outcomes, you confirm or understand that it is possible to lose some or all monies used when betting on sports or doing any gambling. You cannot hold Outcomes responsible for any such losses. Our podcast is here to provide entertainment and should be viewed as that and nothing more. Thanks for tuning in.
Everybody, welcome back to Outcomes. We're predicting at stage 14 of the Vuelta a España. But before we get Johan's take on who's going to win and how it's going to play out, I want to ask you a few questions, Johan, on today's stage 13, won by Mike Woods from Israel Premier Tech. Out of the breakaway, oddly, I would almost say the most impressive performance of the day was not the stage win. No disrespect to Mike Woods. We needed that. He was my pick yesterday. He was plus 1,800. We've not been hitting our long shots. So Woods really, really got us out of a hole that we've put ourselves in. And you aced the head-to-head. So it's actually probably one of the best return days we've ever had on Outcomes. So that's good. But while Van Aert was like, it almost was like he was messing with people. He was just like in the move, he picked up every KOM point on the way to the final climb, picked up fifth on the final climb, got fifth on the final climb, got KOM points, got the sprint points. And on a stage, he had no business finishing fifth. He finishes fifth. This is unbelievable. Dude, like if you consider that climb and how big he is, he's now in the KOM jersey. So he could feasibly win the KOM jersey and the points jersey. I would love to see a list of people who have done that. I can't be very long. And then back in the GC group, Primož Roglič turned back the clock. It looked like we went into a time machine and it was peak Primož. He was destroying people. Mikel Landa, who I think we talked about in the pre-race show and we've been talking about throughout the race, was the best GC rider behind him, loses a little over 30 seconds. Carlos Rodriguez does really well. Mateusz Gomoza, David Gaudu, Richard Carapaz, and then Enric Mas. You'd say this is the first weakness we've seen from him. Finishes almost a minute behind Primož Roglič, and race leader Ben O'Connor loses almost 3 minutes. Still has the jersey by over a minute though, showing you how big his lead and cushion were. But Johan, what were your big takeaways from this stage?
Yeah, obviously Mike Woods, he was knocking on the door and finally he got in the break and then encounters a final climb, which was really suited for him. And then on top of that, he had the rivals that he could beat. Would have been interesting to see, unfortunately we saw this crash with the two UAE riders, Brandon McNulty and Jay Vine. Luckily, they seem to be okay. They both finished the stage, still ahead of the bunch of the peloton, so that was pretty good. But yeah, I mean, Mike Woods deserved that stage win. He was fighting for it, and then, as you say, Van Aert is impressive. This is vintage Wout van Aert, and like the real Wout van Aert from the Tour de France. We can do it all in this Vuelta. Fortunately for him, there's no big leader he needs to sacrifice himself for, because Sepp Kuss is not on the level of last year. So he goes in breakaways, takes points, takes King of the Mountains, and today he couldn't win because it was too steep. But he will definitely. I think he will win another stage in this Vuelta. We'll talk about that later. And then, as you say, Primož. I sent a message to someone. He looks like a metronome. It's just like pushes the pedals and like unbelievable rhythmic. Enric Mas seemed to be the only guy who could follow him again. Although I did see a little, like before Primož attacked, we had Movistar pulling. And if you looked at the facial expression of Enric Mas when Quintana and Aina Rubio were pulling, he did not look relaxed. He was already in stress. I said, well, maybe, I mean, it was a bit weird to see him like suffering, or at least in his face, he was suffering. And nobody does that because they're feeling great. If you feel great, you don't look like that. So he initially followed Primoz, and you could say, okay, these are the two strongest climbers. But then he had that all of a sudden that like this weakness and lost. I mean, he lost almost a minute to Primoz, which was a surprise. And then finally, Ben O'Connor, of course, also loses not 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 1:55. He's still leading with 1:21. Another thing I remarked, Spencer, that was, I guess it caught your attention also, is that Ben O'Connor started to be in problems quite early on. When before Primoz had attacked, he was already getting dropped when Dani Martinez or Vlasov was pulling. And then initially, he was dropping back, and Felix Gall was there with him, but he couldn't follow Felix Gall, and Felix Gall left him behind at the end. That's really strange to see. I mean, this is the leader's jersey in a Grand Tour. That's just not done. So I don't know what's happening there. If that's, I mean, we all know Ben O'Connor's leaving, but leaving to Jaco Alula, but he is leading the Tour of Spain, and then so I don't know what Gall. What went through his mind. I don't know the guy very well, but seeing from his interviews, he looks to me like he's quite an individual rider, and definitely, no instructions from the race car. I mean, that's just looks really bad. If you have the leader's jersey and you leave him behind, that's just Felix Gall is not going to win the Vuelta. Neither is he going to be on the podium. So he should stay with the red jersey.
Yeah, it was really weird. And it's not stage 2 of the Giro d'Italia when Jonathan Narvaez has the pink jersey. Like, obviously, Geraint Thomas would leave him in that scenario. We're a week left in the race, and they have the leader's jersey. I was shocked. Like, okay, maybe Ben O'Connor's not the favorite to win, but if you're decathlon, like, you have to go all in on this. Like, how often are you going to have this chance? I really couldn't believe that.
The only explanation I could see is that Ben O'Connor himself said to Felix Gall, hey, you know what? I'll ride my own tempo. This is better for me than trying to follow your rhythm. But still, even if he says that, you still stay with him. That's just, you have to stay with the leader.
Yeah, that did cross my mind, but I would like to know. I can't wait for the non-existent documentary to come out, because that would be really interesting. But the big picture view, you look at this, Primoz Roglic now 121 behind Ben O'Connor. Not a bad lead, but it's coming back. Like, it's all coming up Red Bull. Like, even without them going for they're letting breaks go pretty much every day. They're not going for bonus seconds. It's coming together perfectly. And then, almost more important, Enric Mas 301 behind O'Connor. So Roglic has more than a minute and a half on Mas, who needs a minute on Roglic to have a chance in the final time trial. Yeah. So that's working out really well. And then Florian Lipowitz, who they're clearly trying to nurse through here, is 429 and 7th, and then leading the youth jersey. Or he's close. He's 17 seconds behind in the youth classification.
Carlos Rodriguez is still in the lead, no?
Yeah. Yes. So they could feasibly win the red and the white in the same Vuelta. Without doing a ton of work. I mean, they're just letting these moves go. I kind of thought it was too conservative. I thought they needed these bonus seconds, but it seems to be like it's who would have thought that they actually know what they're doing, and they know the team better than I do.
I don't think they knew what they were doing. And Primoz was actually very clear about this. He said, like, if you listen to his interview after the race, he said, that he himself is getting into it. He had doubts. He wasn't overly confident, and he needs to get his confidence back. I think after today, he's getting his confidence back. That was a really, really great performance. And, it was a longer climb, which usually Primoz is better on shorter climbs, like 4 or 5 kilometers, rather than, this was a longer climb. But still, the climbs we still have ahead there's 3 really, really hard climbs left. A part of all the other climbs, but the day after tomorrow, there's a really, really hard stage with an incredible climb. We have Lagos de Covadonga, and then we have on stage 20 an incredible hard stage with a really hard climb at the end. So, but if this tendency keeps going, today I did not expect Enric Mas to lose time on Primoz Roglic, rather the contrary. So it shows that, and Enric Mas, again, he's one of those riders that even if he's on the limit, if you see him from behind and you don't see his face, you can't see, there's nothing in his style that changes. Whether he's good, average, or bad, nothing changes. He just gets dropped and he looks the same. Today was one of those days, he got dropped from Primoz, but then he got caught by a bunch of other riders, which, we haven't seen until now. So whether it was a bad day or if, Enric is losing a bit of his power, we don't know, but it's starting to look really good for Primoz.
Yeah. I mean, it shows you too, like if Primoz is not where he at his best, you should try to take time on him. Like, I wonder if Movistar is going to look back and think, we should have been more aggressive through the first week and a half, like when he was unsure. But then again, I don't know. Is Primoz Roglic really ever vulnerable? I mean, I know he must be, but actually today it really stuck out to me of I cannot believe we all sat here and said, wow, Enric Mas is the favorite on this climb. We should bet on him, because Primoz Roglic kind of reminded us the gulf between Enric Mas and then one of the sports elite GC riders.
I mean, listen, if you look at Primoz, prime Primoz or Primoz who's in good shape, he's just better than everybody else that's in this Vuelta. That's as clear as that. If you there's only Pogacar and Jonas and maybe Remco now and then who's better than Primoz. Nobody else. So none of those three are here. So I think we doubted a bit because Primoz had this crash in the Tour and came back from injury, and it must not be easy. And he himself has said, he didn't know where he was. He knows where he is today for sure, and that's, in my opinion, it's only going to get better for him from now on.
He reminds me of a dad that's been playing basketball with his kid on his knees, and he's not been doing that well, and he's like, okay, I'm going to stand up. I'm standing up now, and Enric Mas is in trouble. But tomorrow's stage it's a strange stage actually, because we had a really tough summit finish today, really tough summit finish on stage 15, and it's long 200 kilometers, 201 kilometers in between there.
Longest stage of the whole Vuelta.
I was going to say, I don't remember another stage being this long. Yeah. Only 2 climbs, a third category climb and a first category climb, and then a descent into the finish, but it's kind of uphill. It just climbs gradually uphill for the first 100 kilometers, descends down to a sprint point, extremely mild gradients, 23 kilometer climb, but all between 4 and 5%. And then a descent, and then slightly uphill to the finish. That's a breakaway stage. Especially with Red Bull's happy where they are, Decathlon's just trying to hang on to anything they have. They want the race to be less hard and least competitive as possible, because then it's going to blow up and Ben O'Connor could lose more time. So they're not going to do anything to pull this breakaway back. Movistar's probably nursing their injuries. So I do think breakaway, but I'll list off the favorites from Unibet, and then I'll get your take on who you think's going to win and how it's going to play out. Wout van Aert is the favorite at plus 350. Jonathan Narvaez at plus 800. Max Poole plus 1200. Primoz Roglic plus 1600. Quinten Hermans plus 2000. Matteo Catania plus 3300. Eddie Dunbar plus 3300. Marco Frigo plus 3300. Stefan Kung plus 3300. Mauro Schmid plus 3,300, Marc Soler plus 3,300. If he can learn how to ride in a wheel, that'd be a good bet. But it goes on and on. We'll call him out when we need to. Johan, how do you think this is going to play out, and who's going to win?
I'm not going to be very original, but Wout van Aert, man, with the legs he has, knowing that there's a few really, really hard finishes coming up. He can't win stage 15. He can't win on Lagos, the Covadonga. He can't win the Saturday before Madrid. Tomorrow's a stage for Wout van Aert. I mean, if he wants to be in the break, he's going to be in the break. There's no question about that. He just has those legs. And then that last climb, it's Cat 1, but as you just said, Spencer, it's 5-6% maximum. There's nobody dropping Wout van Aert on those slopes. Rather the contrary, I think he would probably drop.
Yeah,
and he could stay with. And he could stay with these guys, and who's going to beat him in the sprint? He can, he's great in the downhill. So at plus 350, Wout van Aert is my favorite to win the stage tomorrow.
I mean, the climb is long, but that actually helps him because, okay, you attack Wout van Aert, but he has such a high functional threshold power. At that gradient, he's just going to reel you in. Like, where are you going?
I think for a guy like Wout van Aert, that kind of climb, it of course, if he's in the breakaway, Spencer, everybody's going to be, he's the big favorite. Nobody wants to work with him, can become tactical. But on gradients like that, that's actually good because he can just ride his tempo and they're not going to get far away or even be caught by Wout van Aert. So yeah, that's why I think it's a great stage for him.
I like the pick a lot. I'm going to go budget. What a pick I perceive to be like a budget version of Wout van Aert. That's Jonathan Narvaez at plus 800. Obviously, he's not as good as Wout van Aert, but assuming something happens, Wout van Aert doesn't win. It does happen from time to time that Wout van Aert doesn't win. Narvaez, I think, for all the reasons you just said, it's like you would look at this and think, oh, it's a mountain stage, but it's really, I think, suited to classics contenders because they're strong enough to get in the breakaway. They're not going to get dropped in these climbs, and then they can win out of a small group at the end. So I'm going Narvaez. He's been close. He's been in the breakaway 2 out of the last, 4 days, 2 top 5 finishes. Has not been happy with these finishes. He wants to win. So I'm going with Jonathan Narvaez.
Yeah, he's in good shape. Otherwise a rider like him is not up there in those difficult stages. And tomorrow, that last climb, I think he can manage. He looks good. I did listen to his interview in Spanish with our colleague Victor Hugo Peña. He was not happy at all. Frustrated. Thinks that he's in great shape, but that he's very supervised. But that's what happens when you're a rider like him. But for tomorrow's stage, I think he can make it in the break. His condition is really good enough. This is one of the guys, for example, who saved himself today in view of tomorrow. So at plus 800, I like that. I like that pick.
And if Wout van Aert doesn't win, do you have a way? And so I should say Narvaez is plus 900 on FanDuel. So that's even better. But if Van Aert doesn't win, do you have another pick?
I'm going to go with a guy who has also shown in the last few stages that he has great condition. The day he finished second, Mauro Schmid, the Swiss champion, on Jaco Alula. He's been a few times really close. Today it was very clear that Woods was stronger. He got second yesterday, I guess. Did he get second yesterday also? When
Schmid got second yesterday.
So he got second 2 days in a row.
Yes, I'm checking this to make sure I didn't just wait. No. Sorry, he got fourth on stage 12 and second on stage 13.
Okay, but he was the guy who almost reeled in Pablo Castrillo and then couldn't make it. Yeah, exactly. But obviously, he's in great shape, and tomorrow is one of those stages that he will definitely also try to go in it, and he's good enough. If there's not really a super strong climber in that breakaway, Mauro Schmid definitely has the legs to win. He's plus 3,300 on Unibet. So interesting.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I mean, I think people. You would think if you're just coming through and you're like, I want to pick the winner. And you're like, well, I'm not going to pick someone that was in the breakaway today because they're going to be tired. But that actually, it's the opposite. The opposite of that. Yeah. It's like, it's the same. You start to see the same people in these breakaways every day. And not even just in the breakaway, the same people contesting the finishes. As you said with Schmid, he's been contesting 2 straight stage wins. Same thing with Narvaez. The last few days, he's been contesting
same thing with
stage
Soler.
Win. Yeah. We're staying away.
I'd love to pick Soler, but something tells me he's going to mess it up in some way. Listen, he's a great rider, but I don't know what's wrong with him lately. He does really strange things in the race, like weird things that I can't really comprehend. But so that's why I think Mauro Schmid is a safer bet than Marc Soler.
Yes, Mauro Schmid is like a blue chip stock, and then Marc Soler is a startup they're a company it's been private for 10 years and somehow still not profitable. And you don't know if it's going to go public and be amazing or just go under. Like, I can't quite figure out what is going on there, because some days he looks amazing. And then sometimes he's just, I'm going to ride 5 feet off the back of this breakaway for the whole stage and see how that works out for me. But my wild card pick is, I've lost it. I lost my place. It is, I'm going with Quinten Hermans at plus 2,000. Just the same logic we just talked about for our top 2 picks. Classics rider that has proven he's in shape. He got second on stage 11. He's not going to get dropped. These climbs aren't so hard that he can't get over them. I believe he was second at Liège-Bastogne-Liège in 2022. So obviously he can get over some climbs. If there's a small group, he's fast enough. He can win out of a small group if he has to. And he's proven that he's fit and can get in these moves. And he's actually plus 2,300 on FanDuel. So pretty good price for a rider that, if Van Aert doesn't win, Narvaez doesn't win, I think Hermans has a really good chance.
He's fast also. He's pretty quick at the finish. And
you said he was on very good form. You have information, inside information.
To see him do what he's doing, he's grown during this Vuelta. Was quite invisible at the beginning, but he's definitely still in good shape. Plus 2,300 is not bad for Quinten Hermans.
And I think he's partially that cheap because he had a great 2022, and then he's been lost for a little bit, but won a stage at the Basque Country this year. So, and he's coming back, and he's actually looked very good in the second week of this Vuelta. So I feel good about that pick. Let's go to head-to-heads really quick.
That's difficult for a breakaway stage.
It's very difficult, but you aced them all yesterday. So, we can't go wrong, right? There's no way. So the first one, Wout van Aert minus 290, Mauro Schmid plus 200. This one's really hard. They're messing with us here.
Yeah, I mean, it's expensive for Wout, but
I think mathematically it doesn't make sense to bet Van Aert for this, because in theory you should bet him to win.
He's going to finish in front of Mauro Schmid, but let's go with the guy with the positive odds.
Yeah, because it's kind of a hedge against Van Aert not winning. Because who does he lose to? Schmid would be one of those guys. Max Pool minus 220 versus Pablo Castrillo plus 162. This is the stage 12 rematch.
Yeah. I think Max Pool. He looks strong.
Yeah, I think Kern Pharma might be. They might have their feet up for the rest of this race.
Well,
that was a big win.
Castrillo's going to keep trying. He's a fighter. But I think Max Pool is a bit more solid. Castrillo has already spent a lot in this Vuelta. He's been in 4 breakaways. Max Pool has been in 2 or 3 at least also. So, but let's go for Max Pool.
Okay, Max Pool. And then, so that's actually it for FanDuel. There's a few on DraftKings I'm going to cherry pick. The GC ones, I don't even think you should pick, because it's truly, I mean, do you see GC action happening on that climb? I don't think so.
No.
I think it's a complete stalemate. So you'd literally just be guessing. You'd just be throwing darts at a board. But this one's interesting to me. Matthew Riccatello minus 155 versus Louis Menchis plus 110. Basically, you're betting which one of those two is going to be in the move.
Exactly. Menchis was in today, right? Or was yesterday?
It was 2 days ago. Yeah,
yesterday.
He looked pretty good.
Yeah.
Riccatello. Yeah. It's Riccatello's time. I don't think he's going to win the stage. Not a great stage for him, but if he's in the move, he'll beat Louis Menchis. And then I think that's it. Or here's one more. Harold Tejada minus 155, Filippo Zana plus 110.
Zana.
I like Zana too. Yeah. Plus 110. I like those odds a lot. Well, that's it, Johan. Do you have anything else to add before we take off?
No.
All right. And we will be back tomorrow for stage 15. Probably the hardest stage of the race.
One of the hardest stages. Definitely one of the hardest finishing climbs. That's really, really hard, that climb. Super hard. And actually quite high also, because I think it's close to 2,000 meters altitude, which is very rare for the Tour of Spain.
Yeah, because it's not in the Pyrenees or the Alps. Yeah, you're right. It is almost 2,000 meters. Wow. All right. Well, we will talk to you soon, and thank you so much.
Okay, thanks.